Hey baby, wake up from your asleep. We have arrived onto the future and the whole world is become
the Roland Alpha Juno 2. This is the second edition of the Alpha Juno with velocity sensitive keys, supposedly better, still a tiny display that's not backlit, and these membrane buttons that are so annoying that Stevie Wonder really had no opportunity to play them, and then everything is driven by this alpha wheel. From the back, we can't complain too hard. Actually, the box is really tight, but the overall design is terrible, with a music stand, no less. So turning this on, it feels so perfunctory with the tiny display, just basically saying it's on. Let's go to some of these memory tracks, because now we're going to get into everything that everybody wants, which is the Hoover sound.
Bags, filters, they all clog with dust and then lose suction.
Now, if I want a freaking Hoover sound, I don't have to go to a rave. I just wait till like 7:19 in the morning when my wife decides that it's a great time to vacuum. Boy, that Hoover, it sounds so good. It's like a thing that I guess was big in UK and European techno. Definitely wasn't so popular in New York, and definitely always sounded lame to me when I heard it. I mean, but I also kind of like more melodic techno. So let's listen to some of the presets to just hear what this thing sounded like out of the box. And they're pretty weak, even by like Roland Juno standards. The Juno 106 sounded much cooler. Contemporary keyboards from other makers all sounded cooler. So you really had to work to make the keyboard sound good. But the reality is that the parameters that you can set with the alpha wheel are not only annoying to get to, but they're also very limited.
I just think things should work properly.
So to do any sound editing, you're going to have to hit the edit button, and then you're going to have to go to the item you want and select the value, and then you can change the value for that option. So you have to use the alpha wheel appropriately, sometimes moving up, sometimes moving down, and it's really dumb because sometimes like there's only like 3 values or 15 values. There's no need for this wheel. It's not like there's like 256 parameters that you're swinging through that you want to scroll quickly. And if you do want to scroll quickly, like on the filters that we'll show in a second, it's actually like more annoying than that because you can only go as fast as the filter lets you go. So for adding in the high pass filter or the resonance or anything like that, you're only able to go as fast as your little finger can turn, which is frankly really annoying when a slider or a pot just fine. But maybe I'm waxing nostalgic here a bit because I do actually like a lot of the sounds that are coming out of here. I just don't like the way that I have to work at getting to them. So honestly, like the keyboard is getting a little bit more affinity on my affinity bar. I'm starting to think this is some Mad Max shit with Tina Turner building this thing for the Thunderdome.
We had a deal, and the law says, bust the deal, face the wheel.
So yeah, Tina, I am still finding your law tedious and annoying. I would rather just be able to get to these sounds quickly and be able to control it with less reliance on one path to each parameter. But Mr. Dyson or Edgar Hoover or the Hoover Manufacturing Corp never made sounds that sound quite this good, even if they're wearing ladies' panties. I would have to say that this is, still sounding awesome. I just hate the way to get to these sounds. The good news is you can save them to memory, so I will give this synth credit for that. Overall, it's getting some redeeming value as I get into more of the sound creation through the board. But overall, like people who are adamantly calling this an iconic synth, I'm not so sure. It was a passing phase. Filters, and this is the part that feels way too slow to me. Maybe it's good because if you were on that Molly or Speed or whatever you were on back in the day, you would have swept through the filters too quickly. But I like to go through the resonance pretty fast, and this makes me go through like 10 or 12 spins of the alpha wheel. I know it's an exaggeration. Don't crucify me. But still, it just feels like that could be way more intuitive and user-friendly wasn't reliant on this big dumb volume knob from your Sony amplifier. So after a later look, I'm going to give this a passing grade. The small display, the alpha wheel, and then the membrane buttons, which is like somebody got high on speak and smell, said, oh, let's create a synth around that design, really feels awful. You can see, the membrane buttons were something Yamaha brought in with the DX7, but truly got rid of by the time they made the DX7 II. So everybody realized it was a bad idea, and the accessibility issue is real. So being able to get to these things should be a lot easier. You think about the synths from a few years earlier, everything was a knob on the front. Yeah, that might have looked dorky at the time, but it gave you full control. Where even a few years later, with like the later synths, getting through the navigation was far more intuitive, and I can see why these were like big for techno. Probably because they were dirt cheap after the M1s came out and other really good synths at creating the acoustic sounds that people were still going for in the late 80s and early 90s, making a synthesizer that just makes kind of like artificial sounds like this probably less valuable. And the Alpha Juno among them is probably kind of a weaker one of that, while still having a lot of good underpinnings of making some awesome noise. So that's my standing opinion for now. Prove me wrong. I'm happy to discuss. But I hope you found this entertaining at least. I'm not an expert, obviously, but do like and subscribe for more explorations of synthesizers that the world may have forgotten.